Welcome to Peacebuilding Initiatives, where we explore the transformative power of dialogue, cross-cultural understanding, and collective empathy in building more peaceful and connected communities. I'm your host, José Barzola. Thank you for joining us. Today's episode, we're exploring the evolution of parenting. Our guest is Kay Smith, a Master of Social Work graduate student specializing in children and families. She works full-time as a psychometrist and behavioral health patient navigator. And she's also a single mother of twin 6-year-olds. Kay is deeply passionate about emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, and finding creative, compassionate solutions to everyday challenges. Together, we're going to explore how parenting styles have shifted from strict authoritarian approaches to more permissive, gentle parenting, and ask the important question, where do we go from here? So, and for those listening, you're probably like, if you haven't heard the term gentle parenting, this will be a treat. So, Kay, thank you so much for being here. It's truly a pleasure to have you. And I know making the time as we juggle life. So, thank you so much.
Yeah,
to,
it's great to be here.
to get us started, might you just start by telling us a little bit about your journey, how professionally and as a mother, and how those experiences shape your perspective on parenting?
Yeah. So I I was on the fence about whether or not I wanted to be a parent for a really long time. I went back and forth, and then do you remember when we had that missile alert in
January
Hawaii?
13th, 2018. Can't forget
Yeah.
it. Where I
So
was, yes.
that happened, and I was living on Oahu at the time.
Oh,
And
bless.
for a good 30, 45 minutes, we thought we were all going to die. The only thought that kept repeating in my head was, I don't have any kids to have this moment with. And it was something that I was surprised by, that was really the only thing that I was thinking about. Like, that was my regret in life, is that, like, I didn't have kids. And so that kind of started my aggressive push into parenthood. I ended up having to do IVF, and I had a low ovarian egg reserve. So they were like, we don't really think that you have a great chance to get pregnant, so we're going to try our best. And they tried so hard, I got twins. And I'm very grateful for that. I always wanted to have twins. It was kind of weird. At 12 years old, I was like, I'm going to have twins. People were like, I don't know if you know what you're getting into. And now that they are 6 years old, I can say for sure I did not know what I was getting into. Yeah. And so I became a parent, and I got all the books and did all the things, and um, read up on every milestone, and uh, monitored them for just like for everything, every developmental milestone for the first year or so. And then life started lifing again, and it wasn't as easy to do those things. And um, I ended up just deciding to go back to school and get my master's in social work. And in one of my classes, we had a book club, and we had to read a book, and then give like a whole report. Each one of us read a different book, and we reported to the class on the book, and it was all about development, children development from all ages. And so I read Good Inside by Dr. Becky Kennedy. And that was the beginning of my gentle parenting journey. I was like, this is amazing. This has changed my life. The the principles in that book that I still use to this day, every single day, are one of them's a DBT a strategy that two things can be true at once. And that has completely changed my my perspective, because when you accept that your kid can be upset about something that is completely irrational, and also accept that it's completely irrational, and acknowledge that both of those things can be true at the same time, it makes parenting easier. It makes being able to be compassionate in that moment easier. And it also validates your own feelings about the situation, because then you don't get defensive. Like, why am I thinking like this? Why am I feeling like this? Because you're human. That's what we do. And then the other principle that I use from gentle parenting, from the book Good Inside, is the most generous interpretation. And that has really had an impact on how I parent. Because when my kids do something like draw on the wall, I my instinct would be to yell at them and get mad and and then get them to help me help clean them up. And now the first thing that I do is I go in with questions. I go in with curiosity. Oh, what's going on here? What are we doing? Oh, you're drawing a rainbow on the wall. Okay, is the wall the best place to be drawing? No, crowns are for paper. Let's go find something better to draw on. And that um, it definitely gets harder as the level of damage goes up. So my daughter, she's very creative. She loves to draw, and her favorite thing right now is using rocks to carve into my car. So that one has been a very big challenge on my commitment to gentle parenting.
Quite the
And
artist.
she is, and her response, well, at least it's pretty. Yeah, I know. She knows she's a good artist, so she stands by her work. But yeah, it's it can be challenging. It but that's basically that's the journey. That it is a roundabout. Has lots of offshoots. It has um, uh, all kinds of turns and twists and ups and downs, and yeah. So and now I am teaching a parenting class. And so as part of my job, I meet with parents for 8-week sessions once a week, and we teach them different strategies and techniques to help them manage their own emotions and be able to be in a place to regulate their emotions so that they can help their child regulate the child's emotions. Yeah. I don't know. I think I answered your question. I think I answered several questions in there.
No, no, thank you. And thank you for the stories and sharing about the artist that your daughter is. And I will say that that is quite creative. I don't think I've heard any parent share that. I mean, I've heard, yeah, the drawing on the wall, you're painting on the walls, like there's always like getting creative with cardboard. It's like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter how many toys you can cardboard
Nope.
will just be like the
Cardboard.
ultimate a big
Mhm.
box that they can crawl into.
Yep.
It's like the best thing ever.
It
Uh,
is.
but yeah, I was like the carving on. I wonder if she like. was inspired by like another artist or saw something like that somewhere.
Well, yeah, and the best part was is it all happened because she had somehow lost her shoe at school, and I was looking for it with one of the teachers on campus, and they were waiting for me by the car. And so it was like a matter of like, 2, 3 minutes, like not long at all.
Yeah.
And I get down there and she's doing that, and Dexter's trying to break my windshield wipers and
Oh, I love it.
yes,
Um,
and so gentle parenting does not mean that they don't get punished for those things. She did not. She lost her tablet for the week. There was no, and
yeah.
she was very good about it too. She understood like, okay, that's reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you. Um, you kind of shared a little bit about this, but as a single parent of
Mhm.
twins, and I can only imagine the answer to this, but what has been one of the most surprising or transformative lessons you've learned so far?
Okay, so I realized early on that kids are like a messed up funhouse mirror of your own
Oh, okay.
insecurities and traits that you didn't even know you had.
Mm,
So that I think was a huge eye opener for me. We all know that modeling is the best way to teach our kids, but we forget that they're always watching us. And even when we're not necessarily thinking that we're modeling, we're still modeling. We're still showing them how we act normally, and they're going to take that in. And I one of the first times that it became really apparent was one of the first things that Ada started saying was, "Oh, sorry," and she said it all the time. "Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry," and I'm like, "Where is this coming from?" And
why are
then
you
I
apologizing so
realized it
much?
was
Yeah.
me. It was
Oh,
me.
yeah.
I say it all the time, and so I had to think about that because I don't necessarily want her going through the world apologizing, for things that she doesn't need to apologize for.
Yeah. Agree.
And yeah, so that was the first like, oh, shoot, what I'm doing is having a very real impact on their how they're interpreting the world.
Yeah, no, no. I'm always like, anytime I hear a word that I'm like, I haven't heard that, or I haven't heard you express yourself that way, and I'm have to like I'm like, is it something I said, my partner, something they watched, someone around them? Like, where is this coming from? Like, they're
Yeah,
just like
and I
sponges,
mean,
basically.
they are, and they're in school, so they like, they hear other kids and they're around older kids. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
When we talk about the evolution of parenting,
Mhm.
what does that mean to you? Is it just shifting the way we, take care or uh,
I
approach
th
issues that come up, or
yeah, I think that at the core of it is shifting what parenting means, what we as parents are responsible for. If we think about back in, the Dust Bowl times, 1930s, kids were thought of as just adults that hadn't reached adult age. They were not baby. They were not taken care of, in that way. They did chores, they worked in factories and, it was not, they were not thought of as immature or not able to understand things. They were just thought of as smaller humans. And in that way, it was more about teaching them how to behave as an adult, as a kid. And that is where we have changed things, right? We want kids to be kids. We don't want them to have to be adults. We don't want them, for my upbringing in the 80s and 90s, there was this whole push where you didn't even want to expose your kids to bad things. Like you wanted to
Mhm.
protect them from the world. There was stranger danger. It was it went the opposite direction, right? It went a little bit overboard. Helicopter parenting became a thing, and just making sure that we protect and honor the childhood, right?
Mhm.
Became a goal. And I think that now we realized that, okay, we didn't really prepare them for the world. So there's that part of it. And we don't necessarily, we need to find a balance between allowing them to have that childhood and be children and also teaching them how to operate in the world, how society works, and slowly exposing them to the things in the world, right? So that they have an understanding, so that they can build their own compassion.
Thank
Yeah.
you. How would you describe the shift from authoritarian parenting to a more gentle or permissive approach? I think,
I think that it comes with wanting to do better than your parents,
yeah,
right? And wanting to give your kids a little bit better childhood than you had. And then it just went a little bit too far. But
yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's how a lot of stuff goes, right? It's a pendulum and it kind of swings back and forth.
right, right.
And um, yeah, I think that for me, I didn't want my kids to have the same experiences that I had growing up.
Yeah,
And I think that that is the same for my mom. My mom didn't want me to have the same experiences that she had growing up.
yeah,
And so it's that authoritarian punishment based, corporal punishment based parenting style slowly started becoming not a good look, right? It became, not something that is what you're supposed to do, but something that, hey, there's probably a better way to do this.
right. I sometimes wonder because I always look at everything as like a trickle effect or the dominoes. Like,
Mhm.
yes, we talked about the modeling, and maybe that's the modeling they saw growing up, and so being able to break that cycle of oppression, of authoritarianism was really challenging. Not that I'm making excuses, but also I wonder if parents who approach parenting in an authoritarian method, as opposed to, if there's has something to do with like one intentionally being like, I'm ready to be a parent right now.
Yeah.
I whether it's I'm financially stable or I am in the mindset of wanting to become a parent, as opposed to like, oh, I became maybe a parent too young.
Mm.
This just kind of happened. So there's that built up like frustration, and as opposed
Yeah.
to maybe like going to therapy and talking it out, you unfortunately take it out on your loved ones.
Yeah.
Uh, so and I don't know if it's just me maybe just thinking too much about things. uh, but I know that for me, like it was also similar to your story of like I not not everything related to the false missile alarm, but um, as a couple, we were ready. We were like, yeah, we want to have kids. Like that's the next stage. Like,
Mhm.
but also we weren't parents at a young age. I knew I'm like, I could not have been a parent in my 20s. I was not mature. Like there were so many things like all over the place that I was just
Yeah.
not, I would have felt that it was fair to bring, another person into this world.
Yeah.
So
And I think you're right. Like that there is, because there's a shift in the age of parenting. We already know that older parents handle the crises better, they handle the stress better, because they have lived experience, and because there is a shift in the age of when people are having kids, that's definitely a part of, I think, the growth of this style, because you have to have self-awareness, right? You have to be mature. You have to you have to really look outside of yourself in order to embody gentle parenting, or I rather call it sturdy parenting, because I feel like gentle parenting is, that's where the permissive comes in. And I think that there's a lot of
mm,
misnomers about gentle parenting too.
right.
Like people just think that you validate the feelings and then that's it. And it's like, no, it's
And
a little
I,
bit
I
more than
think I think I always look at, when we start giving it a name, categorizing it, it's like everything else, we're not machines, we're not cookie cutters. Like there's an individual approach you need to take to every
that.
human
Yeah.
being. And so not to say that you need to like do gentle and all this, but maybe there's something completely different. One of the things I always love is trying to create a space for them to share, to like
Hmm.
it's like, oh, how was your day? Or like, make a decision. What would you like to eat for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner? Being able to have that as opposed to like, here you go.
Yeah. And
This is it.
that's a tenet of gentle parenting, is giving choice,
Yeah.
allowing, because we kids have no choice. They have no control. And I mean, I know that that's something that was told to me as a kid. Like, you are
Yeah.
a child, you have no control, and you just have to deal with it. Or being told things like, just wait until you're a parent, then you'll understand. And
Yeah.
and I'm like, now I'm a parent and I still don't understand.
I will say, I mean, from my own experience, I think there's one of the things I share with people who want to become parents. You feel like you end up just giving advice, and sometimes I'm like, tell me if you don't want it, or you're gonna
Yeah.
get lots of people giving you advice, but uh, my initially I'm like, get sleep now. uh, but I think furthermore, it's like you have to be able to take that next stage of like not feeling as though well, one, like you are not number one. Anyway, you are number one,
Yeah.
but you need to kind of put your ego aside because
Yeah.
you're caring for someone and raising someone. And it is a very daunting task to be like, oh, I'm in charge. Like there's,
Yeah.
like you go through classes to get your driver's license. Unless you intentionally look for classes on parenting,
Hmm.
they just
You don't
assume
take
that
it.
you should have it figured out. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of wild.
Yeah. So um, when I, my goal for my pregnancy was to have an amazing pregnancy, go in, have a full term pregnancy, and be able to take babies home like, a day or two later, right? Of course, that's not how things worked. My water broke early at like 32 weeks. I or wait, no, 30 weeks. They were born at 32 weeks. So I spent 2 weeks in the hospital bed, on the bed attached to monitors and IVs, and then I had to go into for an emergency C-section, and then they spent 19 days in the NICU. And at first, I was devastated by that. Like, I was like, I am a failure because I'm not taking my babies home. I failed at like my first job as being a parent, right? And it was a like a real, kind of mind,
Yeah.
and then the nurses changed it for me because
Mhm.
every single nurse gave me a little bit of advice that became absolutely crucial in those first few months. And it was like simple things like when you change the diaper, you grab the legs like this and then you lift the butt and then you do this. Like, I mean, it's super simple things, right? Like,
But if
but
you haven't had
if
a
you don't
class,
know
you're
it,
like, what do I do? Like, what's going
yeah.
on? Are they
If
gonna
you want to,
lift
yeah,
themselves? Like,
or you lift it
yeah.
in a way that's not
Could be dangerous for them.
safe, right?
Yeah.
Or like the proper way to swaddle. You want to swaddle so that the legs, have a little bit of freedom because
Yeah.
otherwise it restricts the hips and then it can lead to hip issues. So it's like all kinds of stuff like that that like I would have never gotten if they had not had that time in the NICU. And so by the end of that time period, I was so grateful that they had that time period in the NICU. And it also allowed me to recover from my C-section at home without having to take care of the babies, which was a gift. It really was because I like that is a major abdominal surgery. Like the fact that we're supposed to, as mothers, just immediately like, okay, now pick up your baby and care for it. Like it's a lot. It's a big responsibility. So yeah, I was very grateful for that opportunity. And then it made me realize that like most parents don't get this. Most
Yeah.
parents don't get any of these amazing tips and things that just made my life just a little bit easier. And I needed all of those because there was two of them. So like I
Yeah.
needed every tip I could
Yeah.
get.
Yeah. You
Um,
shared it earlier that you're giving classes now, right? Through
yeah,
your
yeah,
work, and
yeah.
how has that experience been for you?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's been amazing. It's been eye-opening. It's been uh rewarding in a way that like I it makes me so happy, especially when they like when you see the light bulb turn on.
Yeah.
Like we had I'll share a story. So we were probably like 5 weeks into the session by now. So it's 8 weeks. It's only a couple more sessions left, right? And we had been going over the idea of like no talking, no emotion from the beginning. So when your kid is in overwhelm, you want to say as few words as possible and you want to remain calm. It doesn't matter what you are doing on the inside, you want to embody calm on the outside. You do not want to show big emotions because they are borrowing your nervous system. So if you can stay calm during those moments of overwhelm, and then it'll end faster, right? And we had been teaching this and teaching, don't lecture because, lecturing, they're not hearing you. And you're not helping. You're just saying words for yourself, right? You're making yourself feel better. Um, and we were talking about the little adult assumption, the idea that parents think that their child is more developed than they are, mature, like able to handle their emotions better or whatever. Just under like thinking that their kid has a better capacity to handle things than they actually do, right? So we show a picture of brains, and we show a picture of a brain at like 2 years old, 5 years old, like 16 years old, and then 20 is your 20s. And the difference between the teen brain and the baby brain is very little, very, very little. The brain shows like where is the most mature. So all of these areas in the prefrontal cortex and then your emotional development areas, those are all incredibly immature well into your teens, into your early 20s. And so they literally don't have the ability to process the information that you're giving them. It's not possible. Like their brain is not there. And in our fifth session, we had a mom that, like, she's like, wait a second, I have a question. Wait a second. Are you telling me that when I lecture my kid about something, that I'm basically just wasting my breath? And we're like, yes, yes, you're wasting your breath.
Choose your
And they
battles.
had teenagers. They had teenagers,
Yeah.
and yeah, and so that was the first time that like that lesson had really gotten in there for her,
Mm.
and so that was amazing. And then, we had parents come back and say like, we had this lesson called "Don't Defend Your Parenting." So when you give a rule and you give the consequences, that's it. The kid doesn't get to argue with you. Like, I said, know this, that's it. And then that's the end of the conversation. And if you let the conversation go on, then that's only going to frustrate you. And it's going to lead to like an actual argument between you and your kid, right? Because the kid's going to want what they're going to argue their point. And this dad was like, I is completely changed. Like I'm no longer defensive when I'm talking to my kid. Like I just that acceptance that I don't have to defend myself changed how I'm interacting with my kids. And that is beautiful because yeah, you don't have to. This is not a democracy. It's an autocracy or autocracy. However, it's a benevolent one. So I'm kind, I'm good, but what I say goes. I am the parent, you are the child. And so understanding that those are the roles, it's important. And I think that that's something that gets confused in gentle parenting, right? Like you almost like, oh, I'm going to be their friend. Well, no, you're going to show them compassion like they're your friend, but you're still the parent.
Thank you. I'm like reflecting upon, I'm like, I actually encourage the ongoing conversation when, because for me, it's more about, I mean, also I have like older kids now, so
Yeah.
than your age, but especially the conversations with like my 8-year-old, at that point, it's like, okay, we'll have a deeper conversation about it. And it is, I love the aspect of like, oh, that's a perspective I hadn't thought about, that she'll bring
Mm,
up. Or the fact that she loves jokes. And so sometimes she weaves a joke into it. And then it becomes just like we're just laughing about
that's great. Yeah.
the issue. So in a way, I'm like, oh, because I've also observed like her EQ, her emotional intelligence is really
Yeah.
high. Like, so I'm like, oh, you're navigating this difficult conversation with humor. I'm like, at this age, I'm like, that's really, really good.
That is
Um,
really good.
and so, but yeah, no, just to be able to like understand, and I think part of it is like sometimes I lean toward like the safety concept. I'm like, okay, well, let's just talk it out. Like, is this something you should be doing indoors as opposed to like in a gymnasium that
Mm,
has actual mats that you can fall on comfortably as
yeah.
opposed to like a piece of wood here? um,
So
yeah.
there's a difference between questioning and challenging. So if
Mm,
they are questioning, like I'm not understanding why this rule needs to happen.
got it.
I'm not understanding the core of it. That's different. That's okay because and you can tell the difference by the tone, right?
Yeah.
she's calm when she's having the
Yeah.
conversation with you. She's not like,
I think part of it's also something you just said with rules. I
yeah,
don't say rules. I use the word
mm,
guidelines.
hmm,
In general, just as a
yeah,
English as my second language, even with I think I've shared this uh, like when I'm in spaces, I have people normally have like, okay, we're gonna have ground rules. I'm like, I don't do that. I'm like, these are my community guidelines.
yeah,
This is what I'm offering, and if we can move forward with this, and you're in agreement, okay, let's come together. I mean, it works very similar as ground rules,
yeah,
but it's more of a collective as opposed to like, this is it. I mean, it's like, oh, you need to go to bed on time. Why? Well, let's talk about the. And so then I get into like, there's only so many hours in a day. This amount of time you're at school. You want some time to eat and
yeah,
sleep, and oh wait, you want time to read, and so by that deduction,
yeah. And I
they
think that
break it
that's
down that
that's
way.
yeah, that's fair. I think that's totally fair. And I think that like as long as you're not like they're not yelling at you about it, they're not,
Yeah,
like they're not at a different level because that's challenging, right?
yeah,
If they're challenging you, then that's when you need to just shut
yeah.
that down and end that
But
conversation.
but I think it also goes back to what you talked about earlier, like the modeling,
Hmm.
like having to check ourselves from time to time
Yeah.
and being like, I need a moment
Yeah.
go into
And we
like the
teach that
bathroom,
too.
like
Yeah.
breathing exercise, mindfulness, whatever you need to
Yeah,
do to like
absolutely.
center
And
yourself.
we teach that like it's okay for you to like everyone needs a timeout sometimes. And so it's totally fine for you to say, you know what, mom needs a timeout right now. I need to go have a few moments by myself. We will come back and we will continue this conversation after I've had a little bit of a break. And that's totally reasonable too. But I think your kids are older, so it's a little different, right? Like you
Yeah.
can have those more rational, logical conversations with
I
them.
also have a 5-year-old, and
Oh
I
yeah.
hear the whole like emotions. Just like I think the other day I was like, my the cap on my toothbrush doesn't go on, and that was just enough to like ruin the day.
Right? It's
Yes,
just tiniest, the tiniest little thing, and then
yes.
it's like the end of the world, right?
And all I'm thinking about
Yeah.
is like, you probably need more sleep. This is what's happening right now. You did not wake
Yeah.
up on the right side of the bed.
And yeah, that's something that we talk about sometimes. I'm like, oh, you're kind of kind of cranky right now. Like, do you think maybe it's because you need to eat something, or maybe like,
Yeah.
oh, you know what, it's getting really late. I think that the lateness is having an effect
Yes.
on your
Yes.
mood right now. It's getting really hard for you to handle things because it's so late. Yeah, yeah, totally.
Um,
Um,
so have there been with gentle parenting, we talked a little bit about, some of the wonderful strengths, also some of the misconceptions, but have you found moments where gentle parenting feels difficult to maintain in real life situations? And what do those moments look like for you?
yeah, I think that when I am stressed,
Mm,
when I am at a point that it's difficult for me to manage my emotional regulation,
yeah.
then in those moments it's difficult, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I always love talking about like how does one go about taking care of themselves. Sometimes we say that like self-care, coping strategies, uh, whether you listen to a podcast or like um, listen to music or writing, whatever it may be. And I just share this as people are listening here, just because I still come across people who sometimes they're so like always taking care of others that sometimes they forget
Hmm.
to like in- if you're not taking care of yourself first, like
Yeah.
you can't expect to like take care of
My
others.
cat just decided to
Oh,
put
I
his
thought that
face
was
in
one
the
of the
camera
kids. I
there.
love
No,
it.
that was a
Hey,
cat.
it's okay. We welcome guest appearances. Maybe your cat has something to say about gentle parenting.
Yeah, he definitely
Oh,
does. Yeah.
love it. Uh, so balancing structure and compassion. How can parents balance setting boundaries while still practicing empathy, emotional attunement?
Yeah. I think that it's important to take time for yourself every day.
Mm,
No matter, even if it's like just 10, 15 minutes, I think that it's important to just do something that brings you joy. And like you said, listen to a podcast or like I love puzzling.
Oh,
That's, my thing. So that's my self-care.
have you
And
introduced it to the kids?
oh yeah, my son is like he's amazing. Like he can
Yeah,
complete like a 125 piece puzzle by himself.
love
He's
it.
yeah, he's always been he's got like
It
that puzzle mind.
I found it's a wonderful way to like teach patience
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
critical
right?
thinking. And the more they, even if they keep doing the same puzzle over and over
Hmm.
again, it's like, oh, this is really, and it doesn't have to be like 100. It could be like the 24-piece one, when they're
Yeah.
younger, that's really challenging. But as
Yeah.
they get older, like, oh, I got this, I got this. And there's just such like joy when they complete it,
Oh yeah, that's
kind
you
of
get a
like
whole
when
sense of
you,
accomplishment, right?
yes, yes,
You get to see the
yeah,
full picture. Like it's
yes,
very, yeah,
yeah,
you can put all kinds of metaphors in there.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, and so I think that is important. And I think that's way easier said than done, right? But it's about finding where you can have those moments, and then also realizing that self-care doesn't just mean doing things that are enjoyable to you. Self-care also means eating properly. Self-care also means getting regular exercise. It means getting the sleep that you need. And so I think that people forget that those are needed in
Yeah,
order for you to be able to
function.
effectively regulate
Yeah.
yeah. And the more deficits that you have, the harder it's going to be to be able
Mm,
to get into that place, right? And I think that in general, there are people that it's easier for than others, right?
yeah.
It's not something that is intuitive and in fact, I think it's counterintuitive in a lot of ways, because we want to talk, right? We want to share. We want to communicate what we're
Right,
trying to say. We want to we, like talk our point across, right? Like,
right.
okay, if I just talk enough, I will get my point across, and then it'll be good. And that's like, yes, that is sometimes how it works, but not with 6-year-olds.
Um, you talked about this a little bit, but I wonder, what does healthy discipline look like in today's parenting landscape? Because I imagine that
Yes.
might be a question that comes up there in the classes you teach.
Yeah, and because we are, a federally funded healthcare system, non-judgmental, we word things very carefully when we talk about discipline. Um, we talk about how it's up to you. You are the parent. You are the one that decides how you discipline. And in some, in some cultures, in some areas, spanking is perfectly acceptable. And if that is a method that you are using for your discipline, then that is your choice. It is not for me to say that it is okay or not okay. The one thing that we do say about it is, probably shouldn't be used for everything. If you're going to use spanking, make sure it's something that you actually need it, like safety thing. Kid runs out into the street, something like that, right? You want to teach something where the consequences are death, right? You want to like it's got to be something that rises to that level if you're going to be using spanking as a discipline. Um, I personally,
Just to jump
yeah,
in about spanking,
yeah.
personally, I would never condone that, just because people's perception of what spanking is different.
Well, yeah,
Someone's
and mhm.
someone's could spank someone to death.
Yeah,
Like,
and so
so,
that's something that we also talk about in the class is that if you are going to be using spanking as a discipline, you have to make sure that you are not elevated. You cannot be in a place where you are not completely in control of your emotions, because it
Mm.
is very easy to get out of control in those situations if you're not in complete control. So if you are going to use it as a punishment, you have to be very, very careful about how you're using it and when you're using it and why you're using it. Because a lot of times the reason why people use it is because it makes them feel better, because it gives them something that is
There's a whole
like, I've
psychological
done
aspect to it.
something.
Correct.
I have done something. And that is not helping the kid learn a
Right.
lesson. And
Right.
so, but at the same time, it is your parental right to discipline as you are, non-judgmental. I'm not going to judge you for how you're parenting. However, I'm going to try and give you better tools to navigate those situations where you think it might be something that you
Mm.
need to do,
Got it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
because
just think of not only the psychological impact on the child, but also the individual who's doing the spanking. If
mhm.
there is some form of like moral dilemma, that's not going to go away from you. The fact that you
No,
just did that,
yeah,
that's
no,
going to
and
sit with you.
yeah, and that's something that, so when we do talk about this in the parenting class, I usually tell my experience with it. I spanked Ada once when she was younger. It was something that was, she had done something to Dexter that it was that level, right? It was bad.
Mm.
And I had spanked her. And then I came back and I was like, hey, I didn't like that. I didn't like how that made me feel. And she was like, I didn't like it either. And I was like, yeah, I figured as much.
Oh.
And I was like, I'm sorry, and we're never going to do that again. We're going to figure out a different way, because I didn't
Mm.
like how that made me feel, and I don't think that that was effective. And then we hugged, and we've never done that again. And I think that was a turning point for me, because it was a moment where I was like, okay, you know what, that is not the type of parent I want to be. And then made me think, okay, what kind of parent do I want to be? And then it was
Mm.
shortly after that I read the book and got into the Good Inside and Dr. Becky Kennedy and all that. But this was way before I even went back into grad school. But even then, I still had that gut feeling that I was like, this is not the solution. This is not
Yeah.
the solution. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'll be honest, like for myself, even just like when I have to raise my voice, like I have, I feel bad about it
Yeah.
afterward.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to get to the, and I have this open conversation with them about, I don't want to have to raise my voice. Like I
Yeah.
know you don't like it. I don't like it either. But it
Hmm.
seems as though I'm noticing this is the only time you actually listen.
Yeah.
And so what else can we do differently? And
Yeah.
so having to have those conversations is ever so essential.
Hmm. And in those moments, we are kind of inadvertently training our kids to only respond to the yelling,
Mm.
because we get to that point and then they listen.
Yeah.
And so they like learn that it's when we get to that point that they have to go, they really have to listen. You're serious now.
Right.
But they don't take you as serious in those beginning points, because you haven't raised your voice. You haven't gotten to that level of escalation.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's, yeah. I was a yeller. I was full on yeller, and now it's something that I am very aware of. My partner, he is loud. He's just a loud individual, and so we have that conversation a lot. I'm like, just lower it down, just a little lower. And then just being around him has also made me aware of my own loudness,
Yeah.
and made me kind of keep things down. But I also realized that kids listen better if you use a quiet voice.
Mm. I like that.
Yeah, because they have to get closer, they have to pay
Yes.
attention, and it's like a
Yes.
psychological trick that you can use.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a that's when I realized that that actually works. That was a nice game changer for me. Of course, it's not easy when everybody's
Yes.
screaming in the house. Like you whispering isn't gonna do anything. So you have to like figure out how to get to the point where they can actually pay attention to you
Right.
whispering.
Right.
But yeah.
Love it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's all about like adapting and problem solving, right? Like,
yeah. So we kind of stepped into some of the questions I had about, let's see. Have you seen, I know your kids are young, but maybe with like the parents you work with or in your own experience with your own parents, like, have you seen that parents approach, how can, the way that parents approach can influence how children might handle conflict themselves? I mean, going back
yeah,
to that modeling concept that we
yes,
talked about earlier.
absolutely. Yeah, so that's something, modeling conflict for our kids is really important. And that's something that I argue with my partner in front of my kids. And I do it intentionally because I try and model how to do it healthy.
Yes. Yes.
Because I want them to see how that you can have disagreements and it's okay to have those conversations and there is a way to keep it civil
Mm,
and not have somebody elevate to defensiveness or aggressiveness,
right.
right? Yeah. So that and that's actually something my co-facilitator and I disagree on. She's like, have fights behind doors, and I was like, no.
That's
How
a
are they
big
going to
like
learn?
cultural difference though sometimes I've noticed because um not to overgeneralize, but in lots of Asian households,
Yeah.
most people that I would talk to, they're like, oh no, the modeling, there was a lot of avoidance, but
Hmm.
partially because, they would never talk it out in front. Like
Yeah.
the discussion or the argument was never in front. Um, but yeah, I know you want to like, whether it's saving face or protect the child,
Yeah.
uh, but there's no modeling happening. So
Yeah. There's
where,
no modeling
yeah,
happening. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And so that is that's a tough one, right? Because when you are in an argument, things can, you can feel that emotional pull, right? You can
mm,
get a little bit more invested than you need to be. And so if you are doing it around the kids, you have to really be aware. Like you have to really be conscious of what you're saying and like why you're even having the argument. Like what is the point of like what's the core of the issue? Because usually it has nothing to do with the actual argument, right?
and if there is an actual like, oh, that was my bad, then
Hmm.
actually do apologize and make it
Yeah.
publicly so they
Yes.
see that it's so
Yes.
powerful to do that as
Yes. And I
opposed to
think that
just
is you just touched on something that is also something that did not happen when we were kids. Parents did not apologize to their kids.
mm,
And that is a huge part of gentle parenting for me or sturdy parenting
yeah,
is that like the parent's not always going to be right and that's okay. Like that's fine.
yeah.
And I have this one right here
uh
eating cheese
is
and
that, oh
this
geez,
is
I love it.
Ada. Yeah, she's got a
Hey,
block of cheese in her mouth, and I think it's chocolate milk all over her forehead.
that breakfast snack,
Yeah,
ever ongoing meals,
yeah.
love it.
Okay. All
I
right.
love it.
Thank you. Yeah, and I don't know if you saw her hair, but half of it
Yeah.
is shaved. That was her. She told me that she wanted half of her head shaved, and I was like, I let's wait until the weekend and make sure that that's how you really feel. And then the weekend came, and she's like, yes, do it. And so yeah, I shaved half of her head, and
Oh, wow. I wonder what inspired her.
sorry, I shaved half of your hair. Yes.
Yes.
And yeah, I think about like when I was a kid, like there's no way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. I shaved your hair, not your head, because your head's still there.
I love that, like, right there, a great example of like the words we use on an everyday basis that, oh yeah, wait, we do, normally just say like, oh, we got a haircut, or
Hmm.
like we yeah, actually it is like
Shaved half
shaving
her
your head.
head. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, but my head's
Mm.
still here. Yeah.
Hair. You didn't shave the head. You shaved the hair.
Yeah. It reminds me of these idioms that happen in English. It's like, when you're going to go on
Oh.
stage, people are like, oh, go break a leg. And it's like, why would you wish that upon someone? It's horrible. Like, um, well, um, so how do we talked a little bit of, it's kind of weaving into the concept of
Mhm.
culture, but how do
Yeah.
culture, community, upbringing influence parenting styles, beliefs about discipline? Do you think gentle parenting is accessible to all families?
Yeah, I think it can be.
Okay.
At one of our sessions, we what you touched on with with Asian families, right?
Yeah.
You don't show those things. We had a family come in and they shared the same thing. Like that's not how they grew up, and so it was. And he's the dad is very reserved. He doesn't show much emotion,
Mm.
and um, he really his thing that we tried to get him to do was play with the kids. So he had to play with the kids doing something. It was two older, so a 14-year-old and a 11-year-old. Play with them doing something that they want to do. Not what you want to
Oh,
do, but what they want to do, something they like to do.
ooh, I love
And
that.
yeah, and so they did this like fashion game, video game, and they like made him a character and dressed him up in a dress,
I
and
love it.
it was just all giggles and him telling the story in the class, he was smiling, and I think it was the first time that I'd seen him smile like
Yeah,
the whole time, right? And so you could see that
love
it
it.
actually like it opened him up a little bit,
Yeah,
and in a way that like he didn't feel was would have been culturally appropriate. And but then he did it and he's like, this is great. This is really like I didn't lose anything by doing this. This actually helped me bond with them.
and it is one of those things where we like, not to say, sometimes people might say like we forget to be a kid, but we forget to like be playful. We forget to like
Yeah.
just have fun, to show that, we sometimes you think like, oh, we need, going back to the modeling, it's not just about modeling responsibilities, but also the other emotions.
Yeah.
If you need to cry
Hmm.
and you want to be alone crying, okay, but if it happens in front of your kids,
That's
it's okay.
okay.
It's not,
Okay.
it's not like you've let them down. Like it's
No.
we're all human at the end of the
Yeah.
day. Like, so it's ever so essential to just keep that alive. Um and I think those are like the layers of experience that I think help to build character. You know,
Yeah.
how do they go about comforting you when, and then you're like, and then you're just like, oh, this is what I do when you're crying.
Yeah.
Yeah, they bring you a blanket, or here's my toy.
Yeah.
I'll lend you my stuffy or something like that.
Oh, I
That
know. It's
helps.
so
Yeah,
sweet. And you're like,
yeah,
okay, all right.
yeah.
I guess I'm doing a good job.
Yes, yes. Looking ahead,
Mhm.
the future of parenting, as we were talking about the evolution of parenting, where do you think parenting is headed in the next 10 to 20 years?
I think that we're probably going to get away from the gentle parenting a little bit,
Mm,
because I think it went a little bit too far.
okay.
Um, um, I think that people think of it as something different than what it actually is.
Mm,
Um, and that's why I use the word permissive parenting, because I think that that's what it ends up being for some people, whereas they just, it ends up being child led instead of
mm,
gentle parenting. So the
got it.
child just is in charge, basically. Um, and so I think that we're going to back away from that a little bit more. And I think that emotional intelligence is going to be at the core of how we're going to parent.
Mm,
I think it's becoming more and more like people are becoming more and more aware of how important it is for our kids to learn that component.
yeah.
It's being put into schools. It's because it's not being taught at home. It's being put into schools, and so I think
Yeah.
that is the what it's going to come down to. So maybe it's not necessarily going to be a specific type of parenting. It's just going to be more of a self-aware.
Yeah. And maybe it's a disservice to even ask the question to kind of going back to what I said earlier, we don't need to categorize it. I think finding what works for your household
Yeah,
is probably what's most important. And I think, whether we're talking about parenting, we're talking about other aspects where we work with youth, um I find our systems are set up where many times they shift to like whatever the research or and then that leads to the grants. That's what they're giving money to, and so that's
yeah,
what keeps being uh sold. But I think at the core of everything, it's just creating a space for care, love, and dialogue. Like
yeah,
if because at the end of the day it is, I have this thing where like whenever I meet parents who like have older kids who are like already, let's say, in their 20s, I'm always like I, I mean, lately I've been saying like congratulations on raising functional adults. It's just like they made it this far like,
yeah,
and then they're like, oh no, the worries, it never stops, it's
yeah,
ever ongoing.
yeah. And
So
I
it just
always
evolves.
said that my parenting goal was to not raise shitty humans.
Way to set the bar.
Yeah, like that's it. That's all I need. I just need them to just,
Yeah.
just be good citizens in the world, and compassionate and care about others, and just small things. Not a lot to ask for. But I also wanted to bring up one of the other things that we do in our parenting classes is we help the parents develop a behavioral health plan or family
Mm,
behavioral plan.
yeah.
And that is developing guidelines for the entire family to follow. So we did that in our house, and I sat down with them and I had them help me develop these rules or guidelines, and they had a part in it. And we all of them are worded positively. So, for example, be respectful is one of the guidelines. And in order to be respectful, you can't call people names. You have to be respectful of people's personal space,
Mm,
and you have to be respectful of people's properties, and that's being respectful. And
yeah.
then instead of don't hit, don't kick, don't whatever, it's we
Mm,
use our words to solve our problems. We use our words to solve our problems.
Yeah, I love that.
Wait a second. I don't think you did you use kind words to solve your problems? No? Oh, shoot. Oh, I think you broke one of our guidelines. Okay. Well, and then in there you have already what the consequences are going to be and what, and what the rewards are if they do things, right? And so, oh, shoot. You broke that. What should we do? Oh, you think that you should go clean the play area for 20 minutes? Okay, yeah, I think that's a good. And that's actually a punishment that my son came up with when we were having one of these conversations. Because when it's already established, when it's already the ground rules are already there, then you don't have to go through the defending. You don't have to do all those things because it's already established. And the other thing is everybody has to follow these guidelines. It's not just the
Mm,
kids, it's the parents too. So if
yeah.
I break one of those guidelines, I also have to have the consequence.
Yeah.
And so that makes it more of we're in this together. We're a team, right? Yeah.
No, I love that. I love that. And it reminds me, shifting a little differently, I just got reminded, I was like, oh, my child was like, oh, how do you I was in the kitchen and they wanted to like learn how to cook something or how to like, and so
Yeah.
creating the space for them to do that, even if it's going to
Yeah.
take like 2 to 3 times the amount of time
Gosh.
it
And
would.
the four times the mess. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I will say, someone shared with me, they're like, oh, they're like, you should definitely do that because they're more apt to like eat the food
Mhm.
than something they didn't make.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
that like
If
that
they're
ownership.
engaged in the making.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. For
Get them
sure.
involved in the process.
Exactly. And that's pretty much it's universal. You get them involved in the process and they're going to be more invested.
Yeah. What kind of advice would you give to parents who feel overwhelmed trying to, as they say, get it right?
I well, good enough parenting is just that, good enough. It's good enough. Um, and I the motto that I had in my head when they were babies was everything is temporary. And that is good and bad, right? Everything good is temporary. So enjoy the moments, enjoy the cuddles, enjoy the positive, happy moments because it's temporary. Everything is temporary. Don't
Yeah.
worry about the chaos. Don't worry about the mess. Don't worry about what's happening right now because it's temporary. It's going to
Yep.
change. And that has really helped me embrace the good moments and not get consumed by the bad.
You. And for those, for folks listening in who might have been raised in a more authoritarian household, how can they begin to shift their parenting approach? I don't know if you have any tips for that.
Um, I think that the first thing that really helps parents is curiosity. And the second thing is vulnerability. So if you can start to approach your parenting with a little bit of curiosity and a little bit of
Mm,
vulnerability, that will change everything. Because you'll start to question your feelings, right? You'll start to question, that didn't really feel that good. I don't really know if I want that.
yeah.
Or, hey, this might be an opportunity for me to share a story from my childhood.
Mm,
And that's where the vulnerability comes in, right? And, you know, allowing you to have that connection.
yeah. I will say, as they get older, they start having. I'm always. I always appreciate the questions that come up.
Right?
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you want to actually learn about mom and dad were like when they were your age?
Yeah.
It's a
I know.
different lived experience altogether.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's
It,
they when they're
yeah.
asking those questions, that means that they're thinking about themselves, right? And they're thinking about you having a different upbringing than them.
Yeah. The other day, I found myself explaining what a radio was. I mean, it's still around, but
Yeah.
I'm like, it's supposed to like Spotify, where you can choose what song you want to listen to. You can maybe change the station, be like, oh, this is country or this is like R&B, but you don't know what song you're gonna get.
Yeah, so that is actually one of my tips in the car is
Yeah.
we only listen to the radio. We do not listen to
Oh,
Spotify
okay.
because otherwise I'm a DJ
While you're supposed to be focusing on the road.
while I'm supposed to be driving, and
Yeah,
that's not safe.
yeah.
So, and they will just like, I want to listen to this, I want to listen to this, and then it's never the same thing. It's always very
Yes.
different things. So at a certain point, I was like, you know what? We just listen to the radio in the car. Whatever song comes on is what we're listening to. If we don't like it,
Love
we can
it.
change the station, but I am not a DJ. I
You're like, I did not study to be a
no.
DJ,
Mm-mm,
so
nope,
I don't
that's
feel
not
like
was
I'm
not my
comfortable
degree.
stepping into this work. But yeah, speaking of like all the jobs that one holds as a parent, you're the cook, you're
Yeah.
you're DJ, you're everything in
Yep.
between.
Car
For folks who
service.
are like full-time parents, I'm always like, when people say like, oh, they're at stay-at-home, I'm like, that's a job in itself. I'm like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's such a disservice that you can't like write that like on your
I know.
resume. It's like, I am multi-trained. I am really great at pivoting.
So, I actually did for my
Oh, you
resume. I did.
really, I love it.
Yeah, because I was a stay-at-home mom and I hadn't worked in a long time. And so I did. I used my managing twins and, having to navigate their schedules and
Yeah,
yeah, I use that as on my resume and
I
I
love
got
it.
the job from it because
They're like, oh, she's handling twins. She's
oh
got
yeah,
this.
she's
This will
got
be
this.
like a break from home.
Yeah. And and like you said it's not seen as a job. That was a huge like uh, identity crisis for me
Mm,
when I was going through my divorce because I was a stay-at-home mom and I was going from a stay-at-home mom to an unemployed single mom. And that like how society views a stay-at-home mom
right.
versus how they view a single parent is it's very different. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was definitely a tricky one to navigate for sure.
I acknowledge all the work that goes into it. In my mind, I'm always like, it feels weird to call it a job because sometimes there's this like negative connotation with like a workplace, and like it's a responsibility. So that's where I've gotten to like a middle ground as far as being a parent.
Yeah.
It's probably the most important responsibility I'll ever have in my life.
It's volunteer work.
Yeah. You're like, anywhere I can sign off on my hours? Is there like a, a prize? Like how many hours? Like Chuck E.
Can I get
Cheese
like a
kind of?
letter from the president or something? Well, maybe not
Right.
this one, but
Or just, like, yeah, it's there should be more it's all good. It's all good.
yeah.
But it I just remind myself it was a decision that intentionally was
Yep.
made, and
Yep.
happy for it. Yeah. I was just thinking, you teaching these classes, and earlier I was talking about like when you hear about when I learn of people who are going to be first time parents or going to have their second child, you kind of unofficially start giving advice. But in your
Yeah.
case, it's part of your job,
It's
which
part of
is
my job.
amazing.
I love it. I know. And the last session we had this young couple that they had an 18-month-old, and we were just like so I don't in awe of them. Like I was so proud of them for taking these steps and learning these things when their kid is young and like when they come in, I'm like, you guys are amazing. You guys are setting yourself up for success and you guys, you've no idea like how grateful I am that you are doing this because you know you're gonna be great parents. You know, you already
Oh,
are. Like the fact that you're doing this while your
yeah.
kid is still a baby is pretty
Oh.
amazing.
I one thing I sometimes share is especially when they're super young, they can't speak. And so in the world in the work that I do, it's so much about like nonverbal communication. And
Yeah.
so being able to decipher your newborn's nonverbal, it's like frustration to figure out what it is that they need
Yeah.
is, finding a way to communicate or to understand what they're communicating to you when in like the first few days or week that
Yeah.
they're here. It's like, yeah.
It's fun. It's
It's
fun.
like that puzzle, like
Yeah.
finding the right puzzle piece to make it all work out.
And then when you figure it out, they change.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Just learning to be comfortable with pivoting.
Yes.
Yes. Um,
Yeah.
what's one small change parents you think can make today and that can have a big impact on their relationship with their child?
I think going back to what I had said earlier about finding, 10 to 15 minutes for yourself, finding 10 to 15 minutes with your child, doing something with your child that they like to do. Not that you want to do, but that they like to do. If you can
Yeah.
do that, if you can find 10 to 15 minutes of uninterrupted time with your kid, that will make a huge difference.
Mm,
That will fill their cup.
I love that.
Yeah. And then, when it comes to like discipline, if there's no connection, then there's no compliance.
Mm,
So if you have not worked on building your connection with your kid,
yeah.
then you're parenting to a cat. They're
Mm,
not taking in anything because you haven't built that trust. You haven't built that that foundation for them
yeah.
to be to be there for them for you. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Last one, as a professional and as a parent, what gives you hope when you think about the future of families?
That young couple, that young
Yeah.
couple that came in, yeah, they gave me
Yeah.
hope because
Wow.
yeah, they're so young. They're so young. And they were like in their early 20s and they did the homework. They they asked questions, they participated, they were involved, and they even like referenced their own parenting and how,
Yeah.
how they were parented and how they want to do things. Yeah, that's what gives me hope is
Yeah.
is that there is the generation that wants to do better than the generation before them.
Yeah. And I think in general, I like to think that there is something instilled in most parents that you want to give to your your kids something better than what you had.
Yeah.
And and I mean, it kind of goes along with the same thing you're saying, but uh, reflecting upon your own upbringing, whether not only like the parenting, but even like, it was like, oh, like you said earlier, like just making that time to nurture that relationship, basically.
Yeah.
And it's so key having those conversations. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you for just sharing your insights and your journey with us today. It's been a really meaningful conversation and one that really hits really, really close to home.
Yeah, this is really
So,
fun too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it just reminds us that parenting is not about perfection.
No.
I always have to tell people like we are our own worst critic, like, but it's about, as you said, presence, growth, the
Mhm.
willingness to evolve alongside our children.
Yeah.
Like I am not the person that I was when my child was first born and even when my second one was born, like we that's part of life. There will
Hmm.
always be change, and getting to be comfortable with that. So,
Yeah.
what definitely stands out is how parenting shapes not only our families, but also how we engage with conflict, communication, our community, in ways, you know, we talk about peace building truly begins at home. We got to take care, nurture that, right? In those everyday moments where empathy, listening, and understanding take root, kind of goes back to the modeling we talked about. So, to our listeners, we hope this conversation encouraged you to reflect on your own experiences and to approach parenting and relationships more broadly with intention, compassion, and curiosity. Keep asking those questions. The way we guide and support children today helps shape the kind of world we create tomorrow. So, thank you so much for joining us in Peace Building Initiatives. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other and keep building peace in your communities. Thank you so much, Kay, for everything.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.